Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I'll give you back to you. I was just messing with my settings, making sure I could follow along.
Touchscreen, so you can zoom in.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, yeah. Stop, repeat.
Hi. I'm Elizabeth.
Alrighty. Gonna call the meeting to order. All right, welcome everyone. Today is May 13th. Time flies when you're having fun. Can't believe we're almost halfway through the calendar year. For those of us who have young kids, I'm just dreading the 2 months of summer. All right, so got a great agenda today, but wanted to start by introducing our newly installed member, Socket. Those of you who haven't had a chance to introduce yourselves before the meeting, this is Socket, our new member. Socket, would you like to introduce yourself?
Can I say no? Hi, Socket Jain. A relatively new member of Apex community. We moved here in 2022 from DC. Loving the space. I don't know why we didn't move it earlier. I own a venture capital fund where we invest in medical startups. And I'm really looking, this is my first public advisory position, so I'll need a lot of support. If I start crying one day, just you know why I'm crying.
Well, welcome. Glad to have you. Arno, did you want to start?
Sure. Arno Zegerman. I'm one of the council members here in Apex. I'm the council representative on the Multimodal Transportation Advisory Board. I'll try to say less than the previous meetings, but this is really for an opportunity for me, on behalf of council, to sit in, hear the deliberations of the advisory board, and take some of that information back to my council colleagues, or give a friendly nudge here and there where I think that the board can add value to the conversation as far as council policy is concerned. So. I'm not a participating member in the board, but I'm really here to observe and learn from you guys.
My name is Samiksha, and I'm a junior in high school, and I'm the youth representative for the board.
I'm Wendy Perry Fannin, and I have lived in Apex for, oh my gosh, a lot of years. And I've worked in the city in different capacities, everything from a teacher assistant to right now I have a small business. So, and my daughter is legally blind and hearing impaired, so that's why I'm motivated to participate in this.
Elizabeth Bruner, shifting into retirement after a nonprofit career, here for 23 years. I do not own a car, so I ride the bus, and I ride every bus that goes through Apex, and every bus that goes through Cary, and most of them that go through Raleigh, bus person.
I'm Noah Top, the vice chair, missing our colleague Linda, who is our fearless leader and chair, who's unable to make it this evening. I work for UNC Health in real estate and facilities. Been in Apex for 8 years, in and around the triangle for all of about 30. So excited for you to join.
I'm Gay Williams. I have been in Apex for about 13 years, been on this board for almost 2, recently retired from Cisco Systems.
Patrick Curley. I've lived in Apex a little over 25 years or so. Work in the engineering for an engineering company. I've been on the board for probably almost 2 years too.
I'm Jennifer Ayler. I'm a new board member as well. I've lived in Apex since 1989, and I have a vision impairment that prevents me from driving at night. So transit in this area is a huge goal of mine, and hopefully everybody else in town can agree at some point that we do want to have transit available.
Socket, good to see you in person. Chris Watson, Planner 2, and staff liaison for the board.
Hi, I'm Jenna Schultz, a senior planner of Apex. And I'm Katie Twing, also a senior planner of Apex. I'm more on the transit side.
Thank you all.
Nice to see you in person again.
Nice to meet you.
Shannon Cox, the long range planning manager.
All right. Well, thank you. All right, Ashley. Oh,
You're,
I was ready to
you are?
turn it over to you.
Okay.
Next
sorry.
on the agenda.
Too fast.
Right on time.
Sorry. Okay, welcome Socket. We are very happy you're here. Okay, so the first item is a staff proposal for the July 8th work session meeting. Shannon is going to speak on this before I take over on the meeting schedule. So Shannon, would you like to?
Sure, just a very brief description of what we'd like to do. We've talked about Peak Plan 2055, the town's comprehensive plan that is well underway, and will also include a full transportation plan update. I've talked with the consultant team. Now that we're getting into the transportation plan element, I'd like to have a work session with this board for them to present what they're working on, start to get input from you all. There is a task force for the peak plan as well, but since this board's focus is transportation, I thought that it was prudent to have a touch point. The July 8th meeting works well for our peak plan schedule. I'm going to try to have them come and have it correspond with a task force meeting, so we'll have 2 times for the consultant right then. I would like it to be more of a work session setting, so we'd be upstairs most likely again, gathered around, getting input, writing notes, things like that. And I would really like to know if people can't make that date. I know it's July because I'm bringing the consultant, and if we don't have quorum, that's an expense that they'll just be here, you know, not meeting with people. So that's my request, and if there's any like known conflicts, that would be great to kind of talk through today, if possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon.
So the request was made the current July 8th, which was our original meeting, but now we're asking for a work session. So on July 8th, which would be on the 3rd floor instead of in the chambers. So with that requested action, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Discussion?
Door open for discussion. Yes.
I'm actually opposed to this because I would prefer it be a formal meeting here. I really want us to take advantage of the chance for public feedback, which is a new part of the meeting. Obviously, no one came today, but I'll keep trying to recruit for it. And I like it being videotaped and formal, and I feel like things should be on air, that there should be formal minutes. So I'm not opposed to the content or the sense of us doing brainstorming together, but my preference is that it be official.
I would prefer it be in the working room as proposed. It will still be an official meeting. There would still be minutes taken, just like there were minutes taken for our last session. And I would say people could still come for public comment. It just would not be live streamed over video. And I appreciate your comments, but I think that setting would be more conducive to the kind of working session
Correct.
that we're wanting to have.
And to be clear, the requested action is specific to the July 8th date or the entire calendar?
July,
right, correct.
8th
So to your comment about feedback, perhaps it would be different if it was for the entire subsequent meetings, but I think last meeting was very productive, and I appreciate wanting feedback. So ideally, starting with the September meeting, we would resume back to this format.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. So it's only one meeting, July 8th, work session meeting upstairs on 3rd floor. We have one motion.
I do have a question. Is it the same time?
Yes, 4:45.
Okay.
We can schedule a public hearing on the peak plan, and July's the next session. There's no in June. Okay, never mind. I'll send that. We are alternating. Sorry. I was going to suggest that we schedule a public hearing the next meeting before the July meeting, but there's nothing. So.
Yeah.
But along those lines, I'll say that I wish this was a monthly schedule, which I think at some point had been under consideration, especially if we are going to periodically do work sessions that take us out of this room.
That's I think one of the priorities or opportunities for discussion and prioritizing is the opportunity for the creation of subcommittees. So my thinking would be that through the creation of subcommittees, groups of us would be able to connect on a more frequent basis than bi-monthly.
So with the work session on July 8th, you can choose to live stream, and you can have a public comment period at the beginning before the discussion starts with your meeting. So that is an option if you choose to do that. So live streaming is available if you wish. During work session style, normally it is not, but it's your choice for your work style meeting. So discussion on that.
So discussion on a possible motion that includes public comment and live stream.
I would be very happy with that personally.
So there was a previous motion on the table, so is there somebody moving the adopted motion?
The adopted motion to move as is.
So there's a motion on the table to just make July 8th a work session.
Mm-hmm.
We're now adapting that motion to include a public hearing and a live stream section.
Yes.
So somebody needs to-
Not a public hearing, an opportunity for public comment, right? Like we have right here today.
You can. You can have a public comment period as long as it's stated in the public notice that there is a public comment period.
But we're still talking, even with the live stream option, we're still talking about being in the conference room.
Correct. Upstairs. Mm-hmm.
I don't feel strongly one way or the other about live stream or not. I think if you're watching a live stream of people working in groups, it's kind of weird for the watcher, but if they want to, it doesn't have any objection to that.
So going back to the original motion of a working session without live streaming and public comment.
Correct. There was a motion on the table for that one.
For that one.
Yes.
Yes. Is there a second?
I think it was second.
Yeah, it was second.
Who's second? I didn't hear the second. Okay.
Okay.
So
Now we have to vote it down and then vote for a new motion. Okay. All in favor say aye. All opposed say no. No. Okay, the motion fails. So now there's a new.
I don't think that was super clear what we were doing.
No.
So let's just make it easy. If everybody wants to change it, I'll just amend my motion that we have a working session on July the 8th and that we take advantage of the opportunity to allow for public comment just like we do in any other meeting and have live stream available.
Okay, so we have an amended motion now.
Okay.
So do you amend your second?
I do.
Okay.
Okay.
So
So
there.
I would suggest maybe we do the ayes first.
Okay.
And the noes
Second.
next.
Okay.
Just so we can clarify who's voting which way.
All in favor of the amended motion,
Say aye.
say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say no. Okay, the motion passes. Thank you.
Okay.
Never a dull moment.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so the next order of business is the amendments to the 2026 MTAB meeting schedule. The last time, I believe we had discussed moving the meeting start time to 4:45 p.m. instead of 4 o'clock p.m. So that is the adjustment to the schedule, the meeting schedule at this time. So what I'm proposing is we requested action is the July 8th, so we have that amending, and we also have the requested action for the 4:45 time frame for start time for each meeting.
All right.
Any discussion on that? Start time 4:45?
For the remainder of the meetings.
For the remainder of all the meetings. So the calendar goes through November 4th. And again, this is every other month. So the next two meetings you have is September 9th and November 4th. So those two, and including July 8th, I don't want to forget that. So July 8th, September 9th, and November 4th would be start time 4:45. And that's what we are proposing to amend tonight.
Just a quick.
Yes, ma'am?
The November meeting is the 4th and not the 12th?
Correct. The 12th was in 2025 year timeframe, and for 2026, it is November 4th for this meeting this year.
All right. Any discussion on the revised start times for the remainder of the meeting?
I have a question. Arna, we were adjusting this primarily because of your schedule. Is it working for you?
This is working much better than before.
Okay.
So it's, yes.
Okay, great.
And I do appreciate everybody's flexibility.
All right. Is there a motion to confirm the amended 2026 Multimodal Transportation Advisory Board meeting schedule?
Make a motion.
All right. Motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor, say yes or aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, the motion passes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Next item of business. So I was asked to come before you to discuss the what is a public comment period? What does it mean? What do you do? So I'm very happy to be here for you to go over just a few things on what to expect when someone does come before you and speak on public comment. So first is the most important portion. This is the most important portion of the meeting where residents have a chance to come up and speak. So they share their input with the advisory board. They are able to share their concerns, any ideas or feedback to you guys. Typically, this public comment is reserved for items that are not already on the agenda, but since those before speaking, individuals will have to sign up with a sign-up sheet. So Chris has placed a sign-up sheet, which will start from now on, be placed here, and anyone who would like to speak would need to sign in prior to the meeting. The sign-up sheet will be available 1 hour prior to the meeting. So if anyone gets here early, they are able to go ahead and sign in and find their seats or whatever that might be. We do ask the speakers to state their name and address for the record. This helps with transparency and helps ensure accuracy of the minutes as well. And so we know who we're speaking to as well. Okay? So this is an overview on what it actually is. Okay? The chair normally facilitates the public comment period. So the chair will call up the next person or the person to speak. So let's move on. Oh, any questions on this so far, on this first part? Okay.
Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Brewer.
This is just about the timing of it on the schedule, and I'm thinking of a bus rider who perhaps worked a full-time job and then has to take the bus to get here. If someone alerted us in advance that they wanted to come speak but didn't think they could make it by, say, 5:05, by the beginning of the meeting, could we let someone, once they arrived via bus, speak at 5:45 or something? Could we have that kind of flexibility for our special audience that might not have cars?
If public comment has been closed, the speaker would have to wait until the next meeting or would like to speak to you guys after the meeting if he or she has any questions.
So it sounds like that the resident who has comment but arrives after the public comment period closes for the meeting would still have the opportunity, if they join late, to still connect with folks after the meeting and
absolutely.
express their questions or concerns.
And there's zero flexibility on that.
I think it might.
If public comment, if a resident comes in before public comment, and let's say the chair has the slip, okay, the paper, he or she is absolutely can speak on if they choose. But if public comment is closed, and normal business is you go on about normal agenda business. So after public comment is closed, there is no open. You can't open back the public comment. Period.
And we're not able to move public comment to later in the agenda as a standard practice for this special audience of people who might not have cars.
That's a question for the board to rearrange your agenda format. You would have to be in consensus in order to move rearranging any agenda items specifically.
If I recall correctly, I think one of the concerns about moving public comment, I think we may have discussed this in a prior meeting, one of the concerns about moving public comment later in the meeting is that if certain items took longer than anticipated, there would be concern about people waiting to the very end to have their public comment. And also, if there are people who sign up at least a 1 hour advance to the meeting, even if the public comment period is closed, ideally that person's already come to the meeting and can voice their concerns and questions informally with members of the board afterward. So, though it would not be on the public record, the questions and concerns would still be voiced informally to the board members.
I would offer people can also contact staff in advance.
Absolutely.
And share concerns.
Residents can also send an email to staff if they wish. That's another way of public forum.
And I would offer, there are lots of reasons why people might not be able to get here, work being one of those primary things. So I think many people may have to take advantage of that option to email staff.
That's right. Any other questions?
Is there an email address for this board as a whole? Is there like an alias?
I don't think there's an MTAB email address, but I would share the board liaison's contact information and refer it to that person.
You started to mention something about not addressing things that are on the agenda for public comment.
So normally items in public comment are items that are not on the agenda. So that's just a common thing where anyone can come and speak on any other topic that they choose to speak on.
One clarification on that, Ashley. I think that's if there's a public hearing, correct?
Yeah, that's true too, yes.
But if it's just on the agenda, but we don't have a public hearing,
they can speak on it.
They could speak to that.
They can.
That makes sense. I was
Sorry.
trying to figure that out. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just to confirm, folks who join on the live stream are unable to provide comment during the public comment period. Is that correct?
You cannot do that.
All right. Just wanted to confirm.
All righty. So time limits and procedures. So each speaker, again, is required to sign in using the sign-in sheet prior to speaking. Before the public comment period, the board liaison will give the chair or vice chair the sign-in sheet. So he will then he or she will call the speaker forward, okay? So, and so you will start there. A timer is also displayed, as you see here, for the resident for transparency purposes, and so they know how long they can speak. Each speaker is allotted 3 minutes. If there is a group of 4 or more, they are allotted 9 minutes. One speaker can speak at one time, so if you have 4 or more people and they choose to break up their 9 minutes with more than one speaker, they can do that. So one speaker speaks for maybe 3 minutes and the other speaker speaks for the rest of the time. That's perfectly fine, but one speaker at a time. And so the board liaison will handle the timer, and so he will reset that at each time a speaker comes before you, okay? All right, so roles and conduct. So one of the important things to remember is that public comment is for the public to speak. So this is their only time that they get a chance to speak before you. So you do not respond. You're encouraged not to respond during this time. No side conversations. Please avoid those. You are there to listen and listen to the residents and hear their feedback. The chair is responsible for maintaining the order of business for public comment. So that is an expectation of also the chair. Any concerns raised by the public, so for example, let's say a resident will come and speak in public comment and ask questions to you. You are not allowed to answer those questions. The board liaison will be taking notes and taking those questions, and will reach out if they want any feedback or any answers or whatnot. The board, we do encourage you to maintain a decorum, so be respectful, professional, and maintain an orderly environment. If that does not happen, if let's say there's a resident here just not being a professional, respectful, the chair does have the permission to bang the gavel and conduct orderly fashion. Okay? So any questions so far before I go to my last slide? Okay? So as you probably know, when someone comes to speak, you just basically the chair will say, thank you for your comments. So if we do have someone who does get a little out of line, I did provide you with some additional comments for the chair and for you guys to also know, because maybe one of you might want to be chair one day. So you know how to respond to residents in this forum as well. So if a speaker goes over time, over the 3 minutes or over the 9 minutes, you just politely thank them for their comments and just say, please wrap up so we can stay with our allotted time. The speaker becomes confrontational or disrespectful, the chair again will ask that comments remain respectful. Again, the speaker asks questions or expect a response. You do not respond. You have a notepad and pen, so you can always write questions or write their questions down. If you feel like you need to answer them or something, please contact the board liaison and connect with him, because he will provide the response to all public comment questions to the resident. If comments are off topic, chair will respond. Please keep your comments related to matters with the board's purview. This is multimodal, so you probably don't want to be talking about Parks and Rec or whatever, I'm not sure. If you do have multiple speakers talking about the same topic, you can also acknowledge that as well, that we appreciate your shared feedback and we've noted your concern. So these are just extra examples, just so you're aware, and just in case something does happen, I don't want you to be blindsided by anything if a resident does come up. But I have not seen that happen, and I hope to not see that happen, but I want you all to be prepared just in case. With that, that's all that I have. Are there any questions from me? Yes, ma'am.
A suggestion that I would appreciate staff to explore, if you could, for the Campo Regional Transportation Group, where I have gone to make a public comment, it is a big hassle for bus people to get there. So you're able to call in and make an audio recording that is then played, your authentic voice in front of that board, or I believe you can do an email message that is read live by a staff person.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like us just to consider barriers to giving public comment for this very special population.
Thank you. Any other questions for me before I hand it off to Chris?
I have a question. How are people informed about the public comment? Because this is something new that we added, right? So is it on the website or?
It is. So so specifically residents will go to the website. They'll see the agenda posted on the website. And so when they pull that up, they'll see there's a public comment period on the agenda. So that's how they know that it's there. So they should, by looking at the agenda specifically.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I've made some effort on social media when I see someone giving substantive bus-related comments to say, hey, here's another opportunity to share that.
That's right. Thank
I
you.
will also in upcoming council meetings make a plug, right? That's, the board is now open for public comments, and anybody who wishes to speak to the board directly can do so here as well.
Well, that's everything I have for you tonight. I hope everything all makes sense. And if you need anything from me, please feel free to email me or Alan. We are always happy to assist any way we can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. All right, moving into the public comment period. Or Chris? No. Nope. I was about to ask if anyone has signed up.
No one has signed up.
No one has signed up. Okay.
Hand it over to you for discussion on the meeting minutes from the previous 2 meetings from January and March.
Yes. So provided in our packet were both the meeting minutes from our working session in March and our meeting in January as well. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes from our January 14th meeting? Is there a second?
Seconded.
All right. All in favor?
Sorry,
so discussion.
Oh,
You just need to assume I have something to discuss. The information update document with statistics should be included with the March minutes. We had made that decision and the information sheet wasn't part of that packet. And then the summary of board comments about Jenna's presentation are just too minimal. This is on page 15. I think the specific comments that were made should be captured about pedestrian safety. It looks like we listened to a really long presentation and then didn't say much at all.
So on page 15, is your concern that the text just mentions Jenna Schaus gave an overview of the crosswalk lighting initiative and didn't have any discussion beyond that?
There's one combined sentence about what we said. There were discussions about safety considerations, where they're missing sidewalks, audible crosswalks for visually impaired pedestrians, push button versus automatic signals, and signal timing at pedestrian crossings. I think it was more substantive than that, right? It's just kind of giving a phrase for each board member who made some comment. I think the context of what we had to say or ask is important. This felt, in my opinion, far too condensed.
Question for the clerk's office or the staff. Is this level of detail consistent with notes and minutes in other board meetings in terms of level of description?
So for resident advisory boards, yes, we've kind of gone back and forth on this, and this board may recall that the discussion has kind of taken place a couple times at this board level as to how much detail goes into the minutes and how much detail is summarized. So I would suggest that if you want to make amendments to the minutes, you certainly can do that. But it would have to be done, at this level, because the transcriptionist is going to continue to do summary-based minutes, and so what you feel is important may not be what others feel are important. So I would say if you have amendments, certainly make those, and we can incorporate those if that's the board's wish. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Is it possible to get the full transcript unedited? This is a meeting from several months ago. Can one get that along with the summarized minutes? If
Sure,
I had the full transcript, then I would look at it and say, this was 12 minutes of substantive important feedback. These sentences are missing. I can't do that from memory. I can just say that looking at this, I know I personally said more than just that.
Sure. So currently YouTube provides that transcript that's kind of open. So when the video opens up, you can click down at the bottom, and I can send you some detailed instructions in the entire board. Where you click view transcript, and it opens a pane to the right, and it gives an entire detailed transcript that what you're talking about. If we take a step back to about a year ago, a discussion was held at the council level as to how much detail should be in resident advisory board meeting minutes as well as in council meeting minutes. And it was determined that from a council perspective, they would prefer the resident advisory board meetings be summarized. Obviously, if there are motions and things that need to be included, and some of you may recall this from the orientation, that if there's things that you want to have a call out for and you want to say, hey, I want to make sure this is captured in the minutes verbatim, then just say that when you're making your comments. Otherwise, the transcriptionist will likely paraphrase or condense down to get the general point across. And so the transcript is out there, and we can certainly send that to you. We don't have an issue with that. But I think in terms of consistency, this format and this structure is consistent with our other resident advisory boards. And then our council meeting minutes are more that transcript version.
And I want to compliment the team, actually, because I know we've gone back and forth
Right.
on this. And I actually, not speaking differently from what you're saying, but just saying in general, as I read through this, I was really pleased with the level of detail.
Oh.
And it captured decisions, it captured any motions that were made, but also I could remember what we talked about without saying, Gay said this, and Patrick said this, and this person said this, which I found quite tedious in the previous way that the minutes were written up last year. So thank you for that. There could be some things that are critical that need to be called out from time to time, but in general, I thought it was really well done.
I appreciate that feedback, and I would say that one of the things I think that the board liaisons are starting to do are send out the agendas with the materials in advance, you know, a week or so in advance. And so if you see things in the minutes that as you're reviewing them that you want to suggest as edits, please send those to us in advance. And so that way we can have a prepared, revised, or amended version. That way we can share with your colleagues on the board, hey, here are the 3 sentences, or here's a couple of points that you wanted added back in the minutes, and we can do that kind of before the meeting. It doesn't mean that we can't do it at the meeting level, but just to keep things succinct and efficient, that might be a good suggestion as well, that if you do notice those amendments or things that you feel like need to be added, let us know and we can bring that back before the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. All right, so revisiting the motion on the floor, as it currently stands to approve the meeting minutes from January 14th. There's a second as well. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
The motion passes 8-1.
That was just for January.
That was just for January. Discussion for the March meeting minutes. No discussion. Is there a motion to approve the March 11th, 2026 work session minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second. All in favor, aye? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Chris. Next, we have Jenna to present on the sidewalk needs map update.
Hi, good afternoon. So just a quick update, and then I want to see if you all have any questions on this after I go through the slide. But we just completed our annual update to the sidewalk needs map, and on your laptops there's a link to the map in case you're interested in checking it out. But I'll kind of run through a high-level overview of the changes or the updates that were completed in April. So it now includes all of the constructed facilities from the past fiscal year, so those have been removed from the sidewalk needs inventory, as well as any changes to the planned facility type. So if it's changed from sidewalk to side path and so on, that's reflected in the updates. And similarly with road classification, so if a roadway has changed from, say, a collector to a thoroughfare, that's now reflected in the sidewalk needs map. And about late summer, we update the cost estimates for these projects in preparation for CIP requests. So now the preliminary engineering, right-of-way, and construction cost estimates have been updated. We also look at the quarter-mile buffer that I mentioned during the last presentation when reviewing the needs, so that analysis has been completed, as well as the bike ped crashes in the town's high injury and high crash network. That's evaluated as part of the Vision Zero effort over the past year. And it now includes the latest existing and proposed bus stops, and then the Go Apex ridership is reflected in the scoring as well. And then the funding status is included on there, so all of the green lines on that map show the projects that are either funded locally or by the state through the state's projects in their 10-year plan, or in their 5-year plan, excuse me. And then we've added one scoring criteria, the length. So projects that are a quarter mile or less in length receive additional points in the sidewalk needs inventory. and that was really to consider the kind of feasibility and looking at the cost. So it would be likely more feasible and cost effective to to fund those shorter sidewalks. So a new element was added this year. Any questions?
Can you repeat what you were just saying about the court? I just didn't quite catch what you were saying.
About the
quarter mile.
Yeah, so we added a new scoring, part of the scoring criteria was length added this year. So sidewalk gaps that are quarter mile or less receive additional points.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any comments or questions for Jenna?
I do have one question, not about the map specifically, but about a sidewalk issue that I've noted in the town.
Okay.
And I didn't know if this was an appropriate time to bring that up. Is that?
Yeah, we'll probably connect you. Yeah, go ahead, and we'll see how to handle it. Yeah.
The new parking lot on Saunders Street across from the police department.
Okay.
There is a crosswalk and a stretch of sidewalk, but it does not connect into that parking lot nicely. There's no curb cut down the dirt incline.
Okay. I know the town is working on adding a stairwell from the parking lot down near the crosswalk. I can connect you with the project manager because there are some plans to improve that area. You're talking about from the Saunders lot to Salem Street to Saunders Street.
Okay.
Is that what you're talking about? A connection there, a curb ramp?
Okay. Yeah, I was hoping it would be a ramp because I know there are handicap spaces that, as you pull in, face the police department, and if you're trying to get from those handicap spaces to the police department for business, whatever your needs are, you either have to go to either end of the parking lot because you can't get down the dirt hill, and a staircase obviously would not be possible if you're a wheelchair user to be able to navigate that, or even with a walker it might be challenging if there's just a staircase versus a ramp.
Okay.
If they'll be willing to consider that in whatever upgrade they're doing.
Yeah, I'll connect you with the person managing that to see if that's the same location that we're looking at, that the improvements underway, and I'll coordinate with Chris and we'll follow up.
Okay, well, thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving to the next agenda item, Shannon to give an update on the manager's recommended budget overview.
So this group had talked about having an interest in informing the capital improvement plan and the development of the budget. It's something that came up during our action planning. Since we are deeply in budget development season, I want to go ahead and take an opportunity this meeting to share with you what was included and what was not included in the manager's recommended budget. I'm only focusing on transportation projects. I'm not the person to give you input on financial analysis or tax rates or anything like that. So this is just the transportation, what was included and not included. The budget is not done, so it's under consideration by town council. There is still an opportunity for a public hearing. I put the date here, it's May 28th. There's also an email address, so you can email comments to budget staff if you have them, or if there's anything that the group wanted to send forward, there are still opportunities. So I'm dividing the slides between capital projects and operational projects. And so what kind of starts this process is staff requests. So the planning department and the transportation infrastructure and development department work on requests for funding, and then that is considered through a detailed process, and this is what's been included in terms of capital projects at this point. So there's a lot of great projects going forward. The annual improvements for Go Apex have been included. just to orient you to my table, I've listed the project in the first column, the requested amount in the second column, which phase we've requested. So, capital projects are multi-phase projects beginning with feasibility, then design, property acquisition, and then finally construction. And then if we are anticipating any kind of contributing funds that might support what's requested, that's in the last column. So we have included in the budget our annual Go Apex bus stop improvements for Route 1. Also, a big project is the new bus stops for modified Route 1, Route 2, and Route 3. The annual pavement management project, Apex Peakway North widening, that's from Center Street to Old Raleigh Road. The acquisition phase only for that project. 2 railroad crossing improvements and sidewalk extensions. That's at Center Street into downtown and Chatham Street. And then Jesse Drive Phase 1. You may not know where Jesse Drive is right now, but it connects 1010 to, what's the new road name? Anybody?
55.
Reliance? Yeah, it's Reliance, thank you. From Reliance to 1010 is Phase 1. Eventually it will connect all the way to 55. So major project. And then improvements at Apex Peakway and Tingen, which is a problematic intersection, design funds for that. So you see a lot of the projects that are moving forward have some funding attached to them, whether it was included in the bond referendum that was approved by voters. Powell bill is funding that we get to help with roadway maintenance. And then the CFAP, that's our community funding area program through Wake Transit. What's not been included at this point, and I do want to say there are projects that are not included across all disciplines. In the budget, it's not just transportation, it's just region-wide difficult budget year. So we had a small sidewalk project on Wimberley Road with a little bit of developer fee in lieu that's not moving forward at this time. Also not included was a traffic signal at Richardson Road and Core Banks, although I understand that Town Council has asked for that specific project to be looked at to see if it can move forward. The next phase of our wayfinding project and the S-Line Mobility Hub Phase 1, that's our downtown mobility hub, which will support all these bus routes going forward. That's currently not included. We asked for design funds, although my understanding is that if we do get the 100% funding through Wake Transit, as we are expecting, then a budget amendment can be considered because we have to pay for that up front. It's a reimbursement type project. Okay, and then operational projects, our Go Apex operations will continue to be funded at the level that we have, increased in April. And we have the 65% reimbursement through the community funding area program. There are funding for 4 locations serving our walk to school routes for crosswalk beacon replacements and upgrades. That's push the button, the light comes on, helps to create the safe crossing there. And then we have funding identified to support our Vision Zero program, which includes traffic safety countermeasures to help support that overall effort to eliminate traffic safety related deaths. And then not included, the mobility solutions study. So that was identified in the Apex Transit Prioritization Study. I've been told we need a different name for that one. It's looking at things like microtransit, strategies that would serve areas and people that are currently not served by our fixed route. This is another one where if that Wake Transit funding comes through, a budget amendment would be considered to provide that funding to move that forward. There are some crosswalk beacon replacements that are not included, and then additional purchase of equipment for signals not included. So it's a quick summary. There's a lot there, but I want to go ahead and get it in front of this group. And I'm happy to try to answer any questions that you might have, but I just want to bring you back to those opportunities for input to town council and staff.
As follow-up, could we see the line items that go within the 1.5 million for Go Apex operations? That's a huge chunk.
So we could provide more details, but it's everything related to Go Apex. It's the door-to-door, it's the fixed route, and it is the marketing, education, and outreach funding to support that transit route.
I personally am very interested in seeing how that breaks down to more specific costs, if that can be done. And are you assuming flat statistics for paratransit, or that door-to-door service passenger counts might go up?
We assume a certain increase in passenger counts because those are federally required trips. We need to make sure that we're able to fund those.
What's the percentage of increase you anticipate?
Do you remember offhand, Katie, increase in door-to-door trips? No, we'd have to get back to you on that.
I have a question that's probably more for Councilmember Zegerman. Do you have any insight as to why the traffic signal at Richardson Road and Core Banks was not submitted in the manager's recommended budget?
I don't know the specific reason. It's in the plan, but it's in 27, so that's kind of where it's hiding right now. Like Shannon was saying, there was a request made by Councilmember Mahaffey to pull that into the fiscal 26-27 year, so into the next fiscal year. It's only $100,000 at this point, so we were looking to see if we can accommodate it. By and large, it's been a bit of a challenge to make a budget that meets the priorities of the town and keep tax rates in check. And so, some things just had to kind of get pushed a little bit to make some room for other things. So anyway, there's still a debate on that one in particular, because we do believe it's a high priority intersection. That's where we're seeing some traffic issues. But I can only speculate after the reasons that the manager had for not including that.
Okay, thank you. Now that Sweetwater area is just continue to grow, and with more traffic.
Yeah.
As much as it's great to have the walkability, inevitably people have their cars. So, thank you. Any other questions for Shannon on this topic? Okay.
I'd like to make a comment, if I may. Back in January, when I first introduced myself to the new board here, and kind of outlined a little bit of our vision for these residential advisory boards. One of the things I said is that we are looking for a more increased role of advisory boards, including things where it comes to budget planning. And so I know that we're getting a presentation today. There's clearly some things in and out of the budget. What I would love to see as a future agenda item as we go into the November meeting or the January meeting is that this board will generate some specific recommendations to the manager and to town council as to what you would like to see, or what you think is important for the town, based on your role on this board, right? The feedback that you're getting from our residents. Again, it's just another input into the process. But instead of kind of being a passive participant and receiver of the information, I would really like to turn this board into a more active participant, really driving certain investments as the town is making them. There's a couple that are kind of fixed, and we're going to do them anyway, right? Like pavement maintenance, we're going to do it, right? Even if you tell me not to. But there's other things, especially around like, you know, the public transit, bikeability, walkability, you know, problem intersections for pedestrians or bikes, the ramp that was just mentioned out of the parking lot. Like those are things that, you know, if these kinds of points of feedback, you know, bubble up through this board, and then we can kind of package them into a list of recommendations for the manager to consider, right? I really would like for this board to be a more active participant in that process.
Thank you.
One more comment. I'm hypersensitive to the hostility expressed by some citizens who are opposed to any tax rate and say that the most obvious thing to cut is the bus. And what they say is, you know, you don't want to pay $1 million for an empty bus. There's so much of that on social media. Or I've had people say it to my face when they know I'm a bus person. So I'm really interested in how we can try to control some of those costs. And that's why just having 1.5 million as a chunk, there's nothing to analyze there. I'm someone who thinks, for example, a route to the library, rather than be full-on infrastructure and going every hour or every 30 minutes, some of that could be done with a shuttle, right? It's on Saturday afternoon and on Thursday evening, just test how many people are actually going to ride public transit of any form to get to the Eva Perry Library. And I'm someone who really, really wants library, but I don't need to go there every 30 minutes. I have some sense that we just need to tackle this idea of relatively empty buses. And I'm someone who rides it, so I know it is often empty. There is a reality to that. When people see an empty bus go by, that in fact is true. And sometimes there's 5 people on there, but on average, you see an awful lot of empty buses. And just say one more thing about that is I know it's really expensive to put a bus shelter. I heard maybe $20,000, but I know there's other communities who are looking at cheaper versions of giving people some shade and rain, or places where Habitat for Humanity volunteers or Boy Scouts build the bench. I'd like us to look at quick build, citizen-led. I'm not opposed to advertising on bus shelters. I feel like a lot could be done to bring the prices down for transit so that the opposition and hostility, people who don't want to pay anything, people who want to get rid of the bus system altogether, feel like something could be done to address that. It's very expensive. I think you pay, when I did the math, $16,000 for me personally to ride the bus. And when I went to Walmart, you paid $90 to send me to Walmart to replace my weed whacker. And some of that's crazy, right? The subsidy per rider does feel out of control, even for someone like me who's one of the rare beneficiaries of it.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
I do have a quick question on the transportation capital project not included, and I may have missed it in the packet we received. What is the wayfinding phase 2? If I'm reading that right?
Yep, so wayfinding was a recommendation in both our previous transportation plan and our comprehensive bicycle plan, and it's basically signage. So the signs that you may have seen guiding people to downtown and to different parking lots, things like that. The overall wayfinding plan has signage recommended for the entire town, broken into phases. It's something that helps people find their way, around town. Find interesting places, promote different areas, and just give it an overall welcoming sense of place to the town. Phase 1, Jenna, do you want to talk about kind of where you're at with that project at all, and what phase 2 would be?
So we're currently in phase 1 right now, and that has gone out to bid, and I think the contract went to council last month. So that's the first phase of downtown signage. And then phase 2 is the downtown build out. So that would be the next phase when funded. I think we'll probably be able to get through at least partial design with the current funding available. And then from there, I would have to look back at my notes, but it's town-wide signage, directional signage, and then we have a gateway phase in the future, bicycle signage. So there's downtown gateways and town-wide or town limit entryway gateways. So it's divided by kind of geography and sign type.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this topic for Shannon? All right, now move into the meat of the agenda, work plan review.
Okay, you ready to work? So Chris prepared 2 attachments for you. I hope you've had a chance to look at them. Attachment A is really summarizing what we captured on the Post-it notes at the last meeting. And how we categorize them. So that's just a reference that's, you know, really capturing the discussion. We took that to create attachment B, which we had committed to doing, to preparing the beginning of a framework for this meeting of what could be your work plan for FY27. So in this attachment, you see your Post-it note ideas still in column B, so we retained all of that, how we categorize those in different groups. And then Chris worked to give each of those more of a task description, you know, because we kept it very succinct in the Post-it notes, so gave things a little bit more of a description. And then we worked together to give a staff assignment of, is this a high, medium, or low priority, to start to get to what could be an FY27 work plan when we have about maybe 5 years of work on these notes. And then we gave you a little bit of a justification of why we assigned it high, medium, or low, identified a relative board level of effort, a relative staff level of effort, and kind of what we recommended as far as potential fiscal year. So what I'd like to do is, we've got the action that's requested. You may or may not be ready for that today, but that's the requested action to approve your work priority task list. I was kind of run through what we saw as high priorities, and then I've got a few questions that might guide discussion amongst the board. So I did slightly reorder this when we got to the presentation from what we put in the attachment, just at least number 1 and number 2, based on what was logical to me in terms of what really needs to be a high priority. So for number 1, I put establish the working structure and refine board scope as a possible, you know, key item, since you guys have identified a lot of things you'd like to do, and we had talked about, you know, maybe forming subcommittees or other organizational strategies to achieve your work plan. So that might be a high priority. We had a lot of comments and thoughts under developing and implementing a multimodal marketing campaign. Under that, we had promoting Go Apex in our regional routes, trying to encourage ridership. There was discussion about identifying an opportunity to show appreciation to bus operators. That's something that Go Carry's doing that we haven't done yet. And try to, you know, facilitate those acts of appreciation each day for 1 week. We thought that might be something that the board could do even without much involvement of staff, that might be something that you all could take on. And then town staff are already participating in Earth Fest. It was great to have Gay and Jennifer join us this year. It really made a meaningful difference to have residents talking to other residents instead of that staff resident interaction, so we really appreciated that. So that might be another high priority to continue. Also the Go Triangle, Go Pass signups, and bus tours. So that's 1 and 2. Number 3 was a big category, and even though we had put the first 2 bullets under gather community input, as I was reading back through it, I thought these really might fit under more of the marketing and educational campaign. So just wanted to put that out as a suggestion. So under gathering community input, we had promoting transit service, especially to those with a high propensity to use transit, increasing board member involvement in promoting multimodal opportunities, and then the rest felt more like input gathering, collecting and analyzing community data to ensure services are aligned with riders with a high propensity to use transit, promoting community input on the mobility hub design, promoting and participating in community outreach and engagement for the mobility solution study, and promoting and participating in outreach for revisions to Go Apex Route 1. I think that's it, yeah. Okay, 4th priority for fiscal year 27 is making recommendations for long-term infrastructure improvements. So that will be your participation in Peak Plan 2055, which includes street sections. We had some discussion about modifying our street sections to be, more complete streets, multimodal. We will be doing that with Peak Plan, and so we would bring those to you for input. And then providing feedback on bicycle and pedestrian related amendments to the Unified Development Ordinance. That was number 4. And then number 5 is really getting at what Councilman Zegerman brought up today, helping to prioritize infrastructure investments through providing recommendations on a capital improvement plan from what this board would like to see, and working to help secure grant funding. These are the discussion questions that I thought we could kind of guide your conversation around this topic. I'm happy to walk through those, or Noah, if you wanted to walk through those. Either way, I'm good.
Sure. Want to defer to the board first. I know it's a long packet. Thank you, staff, for pulling all of this information succinctly. Really appreciate it. Anyone initial comments on the prioritization? I know it's been a couple months. Any ones that you feel like we should move up or down? Yes, Elizabeth.
For me, there are urgent operational issues involving safety. It's a really steep boarding slope on the Arbach bus, which is part of Go Apex Route 1. For vulnerable riders, for elderly, if they use a walker or a walking cane, someone has tremors, people in their 80s are going through cancer treatment. For me, I use a roller cart because I have an injured right hand. All you can see is a partially amputated thumb, but the whole hand all the way up was injured by a bone infection. So I have to use a roller cart if I'm purchasing or hauling library books, and it is so hard get up that steep boarding slope. This is, to me, a serious issue that's making it difficult for about 20% of people to use that bus. Like, that's so serious, and the steep slope is on here, but it's really an issue of vehicle safety. The latest thing, and I haven't told staff this directly, but now some drivers are not letting passengers sit in the sideways facing seats. That little Arbach bus, it only has 21 seats. 5 of them face sideways. There's slippery vinyl. There's nothing to hold on to. And I heard that someone fell off it and had a concussion. Those are the seats reserved for the elderly or disabled. Most of us would never sit there, because if you go flying, you're going right down into that steep boarding slope and falling downwards to the door. There's electrical problems. There are so many problems with that bus. And then we have a second bus that's now in service to improve frequency. It's it's worse, to my shock. It's the boarding slope is medium, but the old bus, it rattles, and because there's a detour through a downtown construction zone, the buses are so far behind schedule that they're having to race and drive faster than that little vehicle can go. So, and this is kind of shocking. There's bus drivers who tell you to hold on. And you don't have metal poles on that bus. You don't really have anything to hold on to. And people are describing going airborne, right? They're just such problems for safety. And this is a tough thing for us to handle beyond pushing staff, pushing the council, pushing Go Carry, getting a really clear message out that it is not acceptable to have a dangerous vehicles out on the road. And then the related issue is, I think at this point the only solution is really to increase paratransit for Go Carry. Anyone age 60 or older who's a resident is automatically eligible for door-to-door service. And if we had that policy, it would take care of the people who are being hurt most by the steep slope. These two issues, paratransit eligibility and a dangerous boarding slope, are connected. So I just can't see how that could possibly not be the highest priority, even if all we're doing is being a repeated voice of not let this subject drop.
Yeah, so let me interject, and I apologize. Those were identified as high priorities in the spreadsheet. I did something when I was making the slides, but we did put focus on improving safety as high priorities for FY27. So both mitigating the bus slope safety concerns and the suggestion of promoting and encouraging participating in safe routes to school interviews.
Shannon, can you identify like by row number?
6 and 7.
Okay.
6 and 7, yes.
On the larger sheet here.
Attachment B.
Yeah, it's
This.
I had notes on this.
That's
one.
all right.
Oh,
That's why
okay,
I'm
I see what you're saying.
It's the same thing.
All good.
Thanks.
Yeah, so that is recommended to be a high priority. I just missed it in my slides.
And I also recommend that this might be like a subcommittee, like somebody, like, you know, a committee that specifically looks at current safety challenges with the bus routes that we have, right? And not just sit here and like list them off, right? But actually take that back and say, okay, here's the challenge, right? Here's the policy recommendation or what we're asking for, right? So that we can turn the feedback into more of an actionable item, right? Be that for council, be that for Go Carry, right? It's like whoever, you know, needs to be the action owner, right? So that we can actually, you know, take that forward in a more structured fashion.
I do have a quick question about that. Would any changes to Carrie's paratransit regulations or application requirements have to go through Carrie's town council?
So any changes to Carrie's, so I do agree that this is probably a good topic for like a focused, structured discussion. The town of Apex eligibility in terms of who is eligible for paratransit is different than the town of Cary, as Bruna was saying, because they offer it to seniors and Apex does not. There's a lot to consider with that, including the comments about the overall cost of transit. So I think that would be, you know, a focused discussion, probably not getting into the details today.
What age counts as a senior to Carrie?
60.
Is it 60? Okay.
But yes, that is, you know, in concurrence with what the staff recommendation was to make that a high priority item.
Any other discussion on items that were deemed as high or low that need or would like to be adjusted?
I did read through all of this in advance, and it's all great stuff. My impression is it's a lot for 1 year for a board that meets bi-monthly, but it could be that some of this could be accomplished all together. I mean, it's definitely, there's work and there's a lot around marketing the transit to the town and trying to increase ridership and that sort of thing. I don't have any particular recommendations about demoting anything from high to medium. They're all important. I just want us to be thoughtful about how we group the work together so that we could achieve it.
No, absolutely. I think it's a very ambitious list of priorities and certainly multi-year initiatives. I think that's one of the big pieces of the subcommittees that I'm excited to formulate in the near future to really get work done simultaneously, so that we aren't waiting until every other month to discuss, and we can work more directly with our initiatives.
Is the idea that the committees would break down like according to these categories? So we'd have a multimodal marketing committee and a
that is one alternative. I mean, there's also the idea of blending subcommittees to have more than one focus. Some of these may not need a subcommittee, but I think in general the implementation of subcommittees will help facilitate this work at a faster pace.
And I missed the last work meeting, so my apologies for that. And I'm just wondering, when I'm looking at the create policy for e-bike use, is there a policy currently? I just know that with that 15-year-old being killed recently, that seems to be becoming more of a topic for action, an actionable topic, or just some guidelines.
Yeah, and Jenna might want to speak to this, but the police department has worked on making sure that the laws are understood in terms of e-bike use and what is legal, and what is safety campaigns as well. So there has been work on that, and then kind of the other side of that is there's been consideration multiple times for e-bike share programs, and that has not moved forward. So at this time, staff didn't recommend that as a high priority, but the safety campaigning is something that the police department has worked on. Jenna, do you have anything to add to that from your work in that arena? And you do have a microphone if you don't want to have to stand up every time.
I agree with everything you said. The one thing I would add is I received an update from our, I think, assistant town attorney that at the state level they're working on classifying the three e-bike classes to put that in state law, and then municipalities can utilize that, because there's class 1 through 3 and they mean different things, and there's a lot of difference between an e-bike and an e-moto, but that doesn't restrict municipalities from adding their own rules. But right now on greenways, they're technically not supposed to be allowed. We have a 10-mile-an-hour speed limit, and then bikes aren't allowed on sidewalks in the heart of downtown, but otherwise they're allowed on sidewalks.
Okay, so revisiting section 3 under gather community input, I think Shannon recommended moving the first two items to number 2. Anyone opposed to moving them to number 2? After reading them, I think they align more with the second bullet, but welcome others' discussion points as well. Everyone in agreement? Oh, yeah. Okay. And then,
as we work through these things, some of these we may say, oh, this makes more sense for this
sure,
group, so I think that's fine.
And then the last discussion point on this list, is this a reasonable scope of work? Depends on what your definition of reasonable is.
It's ambitious, but I think it's worth trying.
Exactly. I think that's what we're tasked to hear. I know Councilmember Zegerman is wanting us to provide input to the staff and board as well. So this agenda lends itself to giving us the opportunity to do that.
I think what would probably be prudent is to have a conversation as to like what the subcommittees are that we want to form, probably based on kind of the 5 bullet points that we just looked at, right? Does it make sense to wrap a subcommittee around each of these, or do we want to do 3 subcommittees and save the rest for later, or 2 subcommittees and the rest we'll address as a board? because I think that is going to dictate to some degree how much work can be done, right? Because these subcommittees can meet outside of regular scheduled meetings, that need to be noticed and everything, right? Can be a little bit more nimble to move stuff forward. That said, I also want to recognize that these are volunteer hours on your part, right? And I don't want to make a full-time job out of this for you guys unless you want to do that yourself, right? So I think it's a bit of a balancing act. I think the work plan is ambitious, and I really appreciate that, right? Also, there's really no nothing kind of spill on the floor if some of the work doesn't get done within a year's time frame, right? So I think it's really up to the board here to decide how to structure the work, how to structure the board themselves, right, with the subcommittees, and then drive a certain work effort and see what the subcommittees can commit to versus what needs to be a longer term play.
Could I make a suggestion? I think 42 items for somebody who's just walking into the room first time, and the time frame we have left to accomplish. With your, I appreciate your comment about being volunteer hours. I think it's probably not realistic. This is just one person's opinion, who has not really been part of the workshop before. I think we probably want to figure out of the 42, like you were talking about the safety concern, that's probably things like that. There may be others out of the 42 list. If we review it with a different lens and say out of the 42, these 10 are non-negotiable.
Can I clarify something? I don't think we're talking about 42.
Oh, okay.
There are 42 on the list that we came up with in the working session that we did in March, but the ones that are captured here is a subset of that.
So there's 42 on the list here, but I do want to call out that
yes,
that staff did kind of put some time frames on it, so that not everything is 2027, right? So and again,
right. If you look in column H where it says 2027, those are the ones you've captured here. Is that right, Shannon, on the presentation?
So what we've captured is everything with a high priority. So column D was my focus, and what we.
But for 2027.
Yes.
Column H is 2027. Right?
And so there's 17.
Well, actually, some of them say ongoing.
Right. Some of them are 27, some 28, some ongoing.
Okay.
Yeah, and so ultimately, I thought what we identified as a high priority may be reasonable. It's still,
so I think it's 17 items.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Much different. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. It's a lot of data to.
It's a lot of good work. I'm assuming.
The first 2 pages. So the actually 6 categories, including the safety category.
It's still a very aggressive goal. Very ambitious, as you said.
Okay.
This is going to sound harsh, but what keeps going through my head when I see marketing as top priority is what exactly are we marketing? Like, as a bus person, I don't think this is the time to take people on tours of the current version of Go Apex. Whereas I think Go Carry Route 9, downtown Apex to Go Carry, I think that's really marketable, even to more affluent people who are skeptical of the bus. But Go Apex at the moment, there are so many barriers to ridership. There's so many problems. It's hard to see convincing anyone except people who are really economically desperate to consider that bus. Sorry, that's the reality of it now. I don't own a car, and I don't even want to ride it anymore, right? In October, I was happy about the bus, and I thought it was getting better, but I don't think people understand exactly how much the rider experience has deteriorated.
Yeah, I don't think I disagree with you, Elizabeth, because I think the detours, given the current construction situation and hearing that the drivers may be driving a little more, not aggressively, but a little less safe, may not be the best time to put brand new riders on the bus and go, here, climb the ramp, slide across the seat, and see if we can get you to Walmart in 20 minutes.
Thank you for hearing that, right.
Maybe not the greatest marketing campaign we could aim to do, but we do have to make transit attractive to people that wouldn't necessarily look to transit, that can drive their personal vehicles wherever they want to go in the area and the community, to make it, I think the 30-minute runtime is somewhat improving that attractiveness, but we just have to continue to work on getting the construction projects completed, and then think maybe about those tours when we can actually give them the true route experience, the safe route experience.
Absolutely. If I could comment on that, I think, first of all, the construction does cause a lot of issues, but that's scheduled to be done, I think, in October.
December now.
So,
Probably
sorry,
November, December now.
November, December. Anyway, sometime this year. And it will take us time to come up with a plan. This is not actually implement a plan, except for the Bus Driver Appreciation Week. It's to create a plan, if I remember the wording correctly. So I remember us talking several times about some of the pushback. You were talking about the cost, Elizabeth, and the pushback on the cost. Part of that is the per rider cost. For every rider we get on that bus, that per rider cost is going to go down, which makes it more palatable to our residents and our taxpayers. At least it does to me as a taxpayer. And I think that, right now the numbers are high unless you understand what we're dealing with and why they are what they are. But with the change to every half-hour service, it certainly has made it more feasible for me to use. And by the time we would come up with what we wanted at our marketing campaign or whatever you want it to be, by the time we came up with that and wanted to implement it, then I think the issues you're talking about, not all of them, the safety issues and all of that are probably harder to solve, but the construction would be over. We'd be back to our regular routes.
I also didn't realize until tonight, and I don't know why, in looking at the bus plan, I should have realized that it only ran one direction in that circulation through town.
Route 1 does.
Yeah, that it does not run in the other direction. And I know we may not have the financial means to do that in the near future, but I wonder if that could help with ridership, knowing that if I get on at Town Hall, I can get over to Beaver Creek or Walmart, but still come back in a shorter circuit than getting on and riding all the way through town.
Yeah, we've talked about that in the past as on the priority list of potential future improvements.
But it sounds like the buses may not be in good enough shape to necessarily make some of that happen.
I just tell you a little story of a woman whose story is much like me. Medical bills and expenses of running a house. She's early retirement and just couldn't afford things, couldn't fix a car, so wanted to test the bus before she gave up on the car entirely. She boarded near downtown and asked for a route schedule and map, and we don't even have that, right? There's no printed guide. There's nothing that you can hand people when they got on the bus, and that was bad, just bad from the very beginning. And then we started turning to go up north to Beaver Creek when she said, oh, I thought this bus went to Walmart. And we had to explain, well, to go south, you got to go north. And she just looked at us. And then, you finally get to, there is no actual Walmart stop. It's at a senior facility. And she's like, so we had to tell her, this is where you get off. There is no Walmart stop. You could just imagine, like, trying to convince someone that this was an efficient way to handle your errands to go to the car. I'm positive, I've never seen her on the bus since, but even though she couldn't afford to fix her car, you kind of see that Go Apex is currently designed, and I appreciate there's a brilliance to it as a social service route. If the constraint is you've got 1 hour and you want to get low-income people to as many possible destinations, the food pantry, the medical clinic, the Walmart, the Dollar Tree, in that way it's brilliant. But trying to get other people who don't have financial desperation, people who have options, to try it, it's really, the truth is, it's so frustrating on day-to-day basis.
How far away are you from the Walmart when you stop at the senior living center? Or
about as far as you would be to go to the bus stop at, what's that building called?
It's a couple hundred yards. Like, you have to cross the Peakway.
Yeah.
So you have to walk a little bit across the Peakway, and then walk across the parking lot.
There's a steep slope there, and then it's through the parking lot. It's a long way to go.
I suggested that we're kind of getting off topic here a little bit. So, like, not discounting the issues that you're bringing up, but I think that this is a perfect example of what a committee or a subcommittee can focus on, and again, like bring back some recommendations. Does that bus stop need to move? Do we need to push it more towards
Yes.
Walmart, right? You know, what's a better service area? Is it Walmart or is it the senior facility there? So those are concrete things that you know can come back as proposals that we can then work into our future plan. If there are safety issues with the bus, okay, let's list them out. See if you know with staff we can you know get some improvements made. Maybe get some other vehicles on the road. You know whatever the possibilities are. Because we're kind of drifting away from the topic of conversation as to how we're going to structure the work and what kind of work this board wants to commit to. Again, I hear the concerns and I believe they're real. I think there's a better form to address those though.
Chair, what's the question in front of us right now?
I don't know if there's a question per se other than discussion before we move to adopt the priorities task list. I wanted to allow time for continued discussion before moving to a possible motion.
And if there's additional structure that you would like us to bring back as far as a recommendation, you know, you can request that work from staff too. You know, if you want to discuss subcommittees amongst yourselves, if you want us to further identify what might work well for a subcommittee structure at a future meeting, we're happy to provide that as well. Once we have, these are the priorities that the board wants to work on.
Fiscal year 27 is starting July 1st, right?
Yes.
So, which is why I don't want this discussion to stop, but also don't want to impede the adoption of the priority task list so that we can hit the ground running.
Can we work backwards maybe? If we need to get something in the fiscal 2027 plan, when do the staff need a decision by? And then realistically figure out how many points, how many of these are realistically accomplished. Because if you need it by June, we only got half a month left. I'm just making up a hypothetical situation. So when does the staff need our inputs to be incorporated into a 2027 plan?
So this is a new endeavor, having a work plan for this board. There's currently, you know, the way it's worked in the past is staff has crafted the agendas, reviewed them with the chair and vice chair for approval, and we've really identified what needs to come before the board. There was a reorganization done by town council, and I think a desire for the board to generate more of their priorities, you know, and create, you know, more of the creation. And so we've just started this work plan development process. But this work plan would guide the board's work from July 1, 2026 to June 30th, 2027. Your next meeting will be in July. So you can adjust this work plan as you move forward. But if we have like a good set of this is our intent, and then we can kind of structure how might the board approach these items, that will give us a good starting point.
So I think, and I'm sorry, I don't want to take over the meeting here, but I think it's going to be more, instead of focusing on these 17 odd priorities that you guys have developed, I think it's probably a different way of approaching this could be, let's set up a subcommittee structure that works regardless of what the priorities are, right? And then see which priority rolls into which bucket, so that as we move forward, we're able to make sure this goes to committee 1, this goes to committee 2, this goes to committee 3, instead of narrowing ourselves to, we only have these 17 to work on, so let's figure it out, and then at a future point, we redistribute the whole committee structure, depending on what comes up. There could be one way to look at it. Again, I've not read through it in detail, so I can't really speak to it. I'm just thinking of more, if we make it a plan for 2027, and there's a lot of 2027s here, and a lot of these would require budget approvals. So let's say if we were to fix the security items that you're bringing up and they're waiting for us to decide and it requires dollars, we're already late for 2027 because the budget would have already been approved, right? So is the effort of us discussing in a working committee going to lead into a fruitful result, or we're just going to come up with a great plan, but then the response is going to be 2028 because the budget's no longer there? So how do we address that? If you guys have already discussed it, great. If not, I think that's probably what's going to determine how frequently do we meet, what do we need to do on, or we just pick these two are 2027, everything else is 2028. Again, making up the numbers, I'm not saying only 2 move or 5 move or 10 move. I think we just got to figure out the parameters to make sure we're effective in those working committees and we're delivering result. I'm sure I would love to grab drinks with you guys and talk about it, but if the outcome is more, let's make sure that we can make a difference, it's going to be more about the efficiency.
You go ahead.
I hear what you're saying, and I agree that we should figure out the working groups. We invested a lot of time, energy, and thought, effort, and I know you weren't here yet,
right.
So totally get that. To think through these things that this group should work on, and we have, understandably so, spent a lot of time over the last few months, 6 months, talking about process and how this committee or board will do what it does. I would like for us to get to work in doing those things.
Makes sense.
And I think it's not going to be perfect. Let's dive in. Let's get working in these groups.
Good point.
And we'll raise our hand and say, this seems weird. This shouldn't be in this working group. It seems like it should be over here. Or gosh, this seems like it's going to cost a lot of money. Are we going to be able to do that? Should we invest any more time
Sure.
in that? And the staff is really great and they're very available. So that's at least my thought process. And I know you were trying to say
Yeah, no,
something.
you're fine. I apologize for interrupting you. Thinking back to our March work session, I know as we came up with a lot of these priorities and shifted our post-it notes around, there seemed to be like overarching categories that were established in March. And I don't know if those would be good ways of establishing those subcommittees. Like I think one was like safety. So some of the things that are high, medium, and low may fit under there. And I read through the packet, so if I missed the subcommittee divisions, if they're already established, we can certainly go with what the town staff has set them up as. But I do think, I agree with Gay that to go ahead and get started working to try and make some forward progress on some of these things that seem to be recurring needs and projects and marketing the system so we actually get ridership.
No, I absolutely, and just looking at the clock at 6:22, just being cognizant of everyone's time. I think we have consensus that list of priorities and tasks is a strong one. So from my perspective, a scenario is to adopt this priority list as is, and then opening up in our new business to go ahead and establish subcommittees that align with the buckets that Shannon put together in the slide deck. So I know Patrick and others have commented about possibly aligning subcommittees with the buckets, and given everyone's desire, then perhaps new business this evening is an opportunity to go ahead and move forward with that.
And we don't have to do it all at once, right? Like we can
Sure.
do two committees now. Like if safety is the thing that we want to get on like right now, let's start with that one, right? And so just an observation, the 6 categories that Shannon just presented do align with the categories that were established that are kind of on this page. The 7th and 8th category are purpose and duties of this board, right? Which include the structure, right? We're kind of talking about that right now. And then there was kind of a technology and component that we haven't really, didn't come forward in the prioritization just yet. So like by and large, I think we are talking about the same thing, kind of aligning to those big categories, those big buckets.
Okay, great. Is there a motion to adopt the MTAB priority task list for fiscal year 27.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The motion passes 7-1. All right. Next item on the agenda, Chris, informational updates. Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I do not have any specific highlights or updates concerning the informational update handout, but just want to provide the space for either any discussion the board would like to have internally or direct any comments or questions to staff during this time on any of the items within that document. So I'll just turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chris. I do have a question. I know the increase was marginal, but in March on slide 29 of our packet, it does look like the March ridership increased in terms of boardings per trip from 3.16 in February to 3.59 in March. Is there, other than the weather improving, perhaps, is there any understanding of why that marginal increase occurred?
Katie, do you want to kind of respond to that comment first?
I think that's on. I think the weather probably had a big impact. There wasn't anything in particular that I think would have singularly contributed to the ridership increasing, except perhaps more people learning about Go Carry Route 9 and being able to facilitate transfers between Go Apex Route 1 and Go Carry Route 9. That's the guess I have at this point.
Okay, because I know Earthfest was obviously in April. I wasn't sure of what other events offhand were might have been in March to contribute in increased ridership, but it sounds like nothing sticks out or jumps to mind. Go ahead.
I'm deeply skeptical of these numbers. Things have changed in the way they've been counting them, and Katie might have an update, but during the past few months, the drivers have been alternating between a clipboard, paper and pen, a sort of computer little thing that they type numbers in, and then what I heard is that they were doing the automatic boarding count. So that's part of it. I heard that there was double counting, and it's hard to understand that happened, but there's just no way that it's true. It's a small increase, right? But if you're averaging it up, this would sort of imply that between 0 and 7 passengers, and there's a lot of 0 and 1 and 2 rider loops, but there certainly aren't higher ones. It's not shocking anymore to have 4 people already on the bus when you board. So we are seeing that. Like 4 people isn't a surprise, but to get up much higher than that just doesn't happen. And then the thing that I really question on this is the on-time performance, that improving that much. I'll tell you what it looks like to me is on-time performance is much worse. It's down in maybe 65 to 70%. But as I mentioned, the drivers are speeding up. What's happening is the drivers are getting treated at the transfer and layover point. Our drivers don't get a lunch break, so they count on having 7 minutes at the municipal building to get out of the seat, stretch, make cell phone calls, and eat a banana. And they are completely getting ripped off that way. Sometimes the bus isn't even circling into the municipal building. It doesn't have time to do that. So drivers are going as fast as they can to get some layover time so they can eat a snack. The buses aren't pulling to the curb. They aren't kneeling. They aren't offering to extend the ramp. The situation is really worse on there, and it is the detour forcing that in many ways. So it's skeptical. If they're managing to catch up, it's because the driving is a lot faster. Where I normally sit, there's only one good seat on the bus, is another thing about that horrible Arbach, and you can see the speedometer. Normally, if the bus doesn't hit any delays and they don't pick up many passengers, they have to drive really slow so they don't get ahead of schedule. So they creep along at 20 miles an hour, and that's why cars get so, don't want to get stuck behind the bus. But now, because they're trying to get ahead of those detour barriers, the buses are driving like 45 miles per hour, which doesn't seem anything if you have a nice car. But on these rinky-dink little buses, man, that's why you're getting airborne. You're getting thrown around. It's going twice as fast as it used to make up time. So that was a long sermon on that, but I have a lot more I can say about this. Ridership is going up a bit because of economic desperation. Like, I am seeing new faces, or people just telling you, a lot of it is you can't afford to repair their car. So because of that, but for regular riders, I don't think our count is going up at all. And now what's going to happen, April, May, and June, we're splitting these numbers in half, right? Because there's 2 buses circulating. It's on a 30-minute rotation. The last thing I'll say is I recently rode, and a driver was on their 3rd hour in the shift, and I was their first human being. Empty bus, the first loop, empty bus, second loop, 1 person, me on loop 3. The reality of the bus is different than the paperwork looks like.
So can we take that back as an action item for staff to clarify how these riders are counted?
We can.
Thank you.
How come the costs are no longer showing on door-to-door?
Okay, I'll defer to you on that one. Or if it's something that we need to get back to, we can also do that.
Oh, I was curious on the traffic engineer response to crosswalk questions.
Can you just orient me to where you are?
I think I'm getting to page 34 of the PDF. For example, what's the duration of the walk signal at the intersection of Hunter Street and North Salem Street? It's 4 seconds of a walk sign and 7 seconds of flashing don't walk across. This intersection, just getting here for this meeting, this intersection is always hard to get to. It makes my ability to get to downtown bus stops more difficult. You really get stuck at that intersection. And this response is so car-centric. But where there's a little tiny screenshot pasted in about pedestrian timing, it says a slower walking speed may be used if appropriate at specific locations. And I think that's what exactly it is. This is an intersection near the senior center. And it's also right where kids are coming out of the skateboard park. That it's an intersection, a traffic signal that's really hostile to people on foot. Everything favors the car. It's hard to get across it. And when I was coming here, 2 teenagers jaywalked across and kind of smirked at me because I was standing there walking through the 60 says, and I agree. I think I'm a fool. You're a fool to follow the law there. You might as well just run it because it's just so unlikely that you're going to get that intersection light. You really get stuck there. And I think anywhere near schools, near parks, near senior center, we need to rethink the pedestrian timing. And then the related issue is the walking speed they use is based on, healthy, able-bodied adults, not necessarily seniors.
And they try it on crutches once to see if they can make it across in 4 seconds or 11 seconds.
We need to do some testing for different walking speeds.
I did have a question that one caught my eye when I was reviewing the packet in advance as well, Elizabeth. And I had a question about it. It said the minimum of 4 to 7 seconds. So just a question of an inquiry for later answer, whether that could be adjusted, because it is a quick light. Whether you have any mobility issues or not, it's a really quick light.
Yeah, if my memory serves me, this was a conversation based on a previous presentation at the dinner meeting, and I don't know if you have an initial reaction or response, but we can.
4 to 7, could it go up to 7?
Right.
Or could we add to that a little bit? It sounds like it's at the minimum, and I get that probably because it's a secondary, I don't know the right terminology, but it's not the main drag going that way. But given all the comments Elizabeth made, I would echo those, that this might be an intersection.
We can share that feedback with our traffic engineers. Our signals are managed by NCDOT. So anything would need to be coordinated with
Can
NCDOT.
we give them feedback as well in any capacity?
She just
Sorry, I
said
couldn't
they
hear
would
you.
share it with
They
the
can share.
engineers.
Okay.
Any other comments? Okay, thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
All right, we will move into other business. Any topics folks would like to discuss?
I think we should discuss the formation of our working groups or whatever we're gonna call them. And
Agree.
just a point of clarification, or maybe reminder, if I remember correctly, the groups need to be 4 or less in size. Is that correct? Otherwise, it's an official board meeting.
I would have to refer back to our town policy. That number sounds accurate. Yeah.
They would have to be less than quorum or less
Yes.
than a majority.
Be less than a majority, because that would give us a quorum, which means it's an official meeting that has to be publicized.
Right.
So,
Okay. So I believe excluding establishing working structure and refining board scope as a committee unto itself, it looks like the categories or buckets are safety, marketing, community input, long-term infrastructure improvements, and recommending long-term infrastructure improvements and prioritizing infrastructure investments. So the first thought is...
No, where are you reading that list? I'm so sorry. Where is that list that you're reading?
Oh, from the slide deck that Shannon shared earlier.
she grouped those
got it.
17
She bucketed,
items.
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome. So, any thoughts on combining those buckets or leaving them as standalone?
May I make a staff suggestion? I would recommend combining the community outreach and community input categories because you would accomplish a lot of those activities at the same types of events. And I think there would need to be a lot of coordination between those subcommittee members if you separated them.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Along those lines, would you recommend combining the group that discusses recommending long-term infrastructure improvements with prioritizing infrastructure investments?
Yes.
So with that input in mind, thanks, Shannon, it seems like there would be 3 subcommittees for us: safety, marketing / community input, and infrastructure planning, for lack of a better word. Any thoughts, questions, comments?
So safety, marketing, community involvement, whatever, and then infrastructure.
Yes.
Okay.
Do we need official names, like subcommittee for safety, subcommittee for marketing and community input, subcommittee for infrastructure?
You can name it whatever you want. It's your.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
I was gonna say.
Blue team, the red team, whatever.
Safety, maybe community involvement. And
Safety, community involvement, and infrastructure. Okay. So, do we need specific motions to create these subcommittees?
Right, with one motion.
I think so.
Okay. Oh, just one motion. So, is there a motion to create a subcommittee for safety, a subcommittee for community outreach, and a subcommittee for infrastructure?
I'll make a motion.
Motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion unanimously passes. All right. Go team. Okay, now in terms of having folks be on subcommittees. So starting with the safety subcommittee, are there any folks who would like to be on the safety subcommittee? Is it Elizabeth, Jennifer? Okay, great. Anyone else?
I feel like we need Arno.
So I'm technically not part of the board,
Okay.
right? So I appreciate it, and I'll be happy to attend meetings where needed. But technically, I'm not an official member of the board, right? I'm a council representative. So, I mean, based on comments earlier, like I would have picked you to start running with this. So.
Okay, so Elizabeth and Jennifer, congratulations, you are on the MTAB subcommittee for safety. Say that 10 times fast. Okay, moving to the MTAB subcommittee for community outreach. Anyone who would like to be on that committee?
I'd be interested in that.
Okay.
I'd probably fit that one best.
Okay, awesome. So it looks like we have 3 participants. And I know Linda is absent, but we want to make sure that, I guess, if there is a situation, we're not in there yet, where there's a subcommittee of 4 people, just keeping that in mind, we can adjust.
We can welcome her to safety if she's interested.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt. I didn't see the third person for that one. I saw you and Gay, Samika.
Gay and Wendy.
Wendy, thank you.
And then the MTAB subcommittee on infrastructure. Any volunteers? I would like to be on that one. Okay, so Patrick, Socket, and myself.
And a question about that's great. That'll be a lot of our focus in July, right? Because
that's a working meeting for project
for 2055.
So the Peak Plan 2055 work session will focus on the overall plan. I guess what I understood for this subcommittee is working on prioritizing and bringing forward recommendations as part of the annual capital improvement plan development is a main focus.
So I think we can use the work session kind of to inform and almost like to kickstart that committee, right? And then with an objective to start putting together a list of investment priorities and recommendations towards the end of the year, to fold it into the budget process that really kicks off in earnest in January timeframe. So that's timing wise seems to work out.
Okay, great.
And they'll get input from Linda.
Yes, absolutely.
So are there any parameters, excuse me, any parameters on public involvement, information, like as far as meeting, can we just meet whenever?
You can meet whenever. So since these are smaller committees and that's the majority of the board, you can, you don't have to announce the meetings or notice them. So yeah, you can just call each other up and say, hey, like how about coffee tomorrow morning, and just get to work.
Okay. No documentation required for the meetings or anything? No? Okay.
I mean, just for our own benefit.
Well, yeah. But I meant like meeting.
Oh, no, nothing formally public facing.
Okay.
Any other business topics for discussion?
A question.
Yes.
If a group wants to meet in this building somewhere, can we get in touch with you to see?
We can coordinate
Conference.
facilitating room reservation. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I guess I'll probably eventually need guidance on what's within our scope, Jen and I, to declare needs to be done about safety. I would just get rid of those buses and get new heavyweight ones in, right? There's going to be real constraints on how to solve safety, so
They're not
might
gonna give us a credit card. We can't go buy new
right. I think some
but
staff.
So, like, there might be things that can be done. Like I don't know what the fleet looks like across the board, right? I don't know like if there's alternate buses that are currently sitting in reserve that's might not have some of the problems that you're describing. So I would definitely urge you to make up the list and clearly you're very familiar with the space, right? And so it shouldn't take too long to specific to the bus come up with a number of asks or recommendations then that I think Shannon or Katie can take to our friends at Go Carry and say, hey, like what if anything can be done about this, right? And kind of start working down that list. There's also obviously the list of 47 or 17 priority items. There are some safety concerns in there, right? That's might be secondary, right? But again, like you guys can make your own work and then your own commitments as to what you want to commit to. But what I think I'm picking up is that there's kind of a desire to stop talking about process and actually start putting some rubber to the road, so to speak. And I think with the establishment of the subcommittees, like you guys now have a way of meeting more frequently and actually start producing some of these things that we can take back to staff, to council, or wherever the appropriate places for those things, those recommendations to go.
And I'd just like to suggest that on the agenda, your regular agenda, we could add a section for subcommittee reporting, where the different subcommittees, if they have something, it wouldn't be required, but if you have something to bring to the larger group, we could provide some time in the agenda for that to take place.
I like that idea. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. All opposed? Motion unanimously passes. Meeting adjourned.
All right.
All righty. 6:45.